This is just to the DEP. You were saying how you're trying to deal with fluids responsibly. Who permits the discharge of frack fluids and waste into the rivers and the streams in Pennsylvania?
DEP does.
DEP does, yeah. And the brine treatment plants. And who permits the dumping of drill cuttings and fluid recycled concentrates into the landfills?
The DEP does.
DEP does, yeah. So, you know, and so we were talking. She was talking earlier about, well, you know, we're trying to keep the stuff out of the rivers, but you still have people dumping the stuff in the rivers because of your permitting. And the people downstream are drinking the water. And it goes, you know, there's a big issue about bromides in the Allegheny River. And bromides get into the drinking water intakes and they're mixed with chlorines and they create halomethane, which can cause bladder cancer. So it's been a lot of, you know, the DEP is supposed to be protecting the environment under the Pennsylvania State Constitution. However, they are permitting the flow of frack fluids into any and every place they can possibly do it.
I'm not sure. We are an agency that does issue permits. Out of the Northwest Regional Office on an annual basis, we will issue about 7,000 permits and authorizations for various types of activities. We do these under very strict laws and regulations that we are required to follow. The Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act. It allows us to live in the society that we do, a modern, civilized society. We all create waste. We drive cars, we flush toilets, we buy plastic. Every week you bring stuff out to your curb to get. It's going to go to a landfill. Yes, we do permit those landfills. We permit them and monitor and regulate them under very strict regulations. Same with our sewage treatment plants. Some of them are still allowed to take certain drilling fluids, not unconventional fluids. They are not allowed to go to our treatment plants. We are tightening up our rules and regulations all the time. The federal government is tightening them up. We follow suit. We have to be at least as strict as federal standards. We have a very difficult job to do in a society because people demand a lot and they also create a lot of waste. And it's our job. Yes, we issue permits. Every permit we issue allows you to pollute to some degree. That's what we're here for. If you want to put something up in the air, on the land, or in the water, if it's not a pollutant, you don't need to come see us. But if it's going to potentially cause some harm, you need a permit from us. And we will allow you to discharge it into one of those mediums at some level that is safe and protective of human health and the environment. And I will stand behind what we do. And I will take exception to this gentleman. I will not argue with you because you have your own set of facts. But we have never dismissed anyone, demoted, transferred, or otherwise disciplined someone for taking a position that you alluded to earlier. I'm not going to argue with you, sir. You had your chance to state your facts. I will state mine. I've been with the agency 27 years, sir. I've worked in that program. Okay.
Because you didn't protect me?
Okay.
My air and that?
So I just wanted to just state a case for what the EPA does and what our department does. And I wish you folks here would help us in some of these ways. You told us about abandoned wells that have just been cut off below the plowing surface. How does that make sense if you're so responsible for your land and the water and the air that we breathe here, that you would knowingly do something like that or allow someone to do that? You know, these are Medina wells. These are wells that are bonded and permitted. If they haven't been in production, you need to apply for inactive status from us. And if you aren't producing it within a year, you need to plug it and you have to submit a plugging certificate to us to get your bond money back. We don't allow this. I find it hard to believe that Medina wells are cut off and just allowed, plugged like someone did it back in the 1800s. It just doesn't happen anymore. But if they're out there, let us know. And if there's no one responsible for them, we'll put them on the abandoned well list and we will get them. But we need your help. You know, we're concerned as much as you are about connectivity between these wells. And I want to clear up something. You talked about 1,000-foot spacing for most of these wells here. I would argue that they're probably on 13-20 spacing. Because the hydro fractures at that time for a vertical well typically were about 600 feet out. So you really don't want to drill a well and connect into the well next door to you. That makes no sense. You're both drawing from the same pool of gas. 1320 was a figure based, first of all, maybe on Halliburton's calculations, but it also came out of the 1978 Natural Gas Policy Act signed by President Clinton. What that did was revise Section 29 of the IRS code and allowed for tax credits for producing unconventional gas, difficult to produce gas, and the Medina is one of those formations. So you had to qualify under two criteria. You had to be 1,320 feet away from the nearest well to get a Section 103 new onshore well and certificate, and then you had to demonstrate through a geophysical log that you were in fact perforating and producing from a difficult to produce formation, that being the Medina. That would give you a tax credit. That is what spurred this drilling industry in the late 70s and the 80s into the 90s. It was these tax credits after the oil embargo and everything we went through in the 70s to make us more energy independent. But it was through these tax credits which also defined our spacing. We also have our oil and gas conservation law that requires 330 setback from lease boundaries. I mean, we have spacing requirements. So, and I would be surprised if a lot of these are within 1,000 feet you have been connecting. So these are, I just wanted to clear that one up there.
And I have a correction too. For conventional wells, 1,000 feet. I stated 2,500 feet. That's for unconventional. These wells will be conventional, so that the presumptive liability is 1,000 feet. So I gave you some wrong information a few minutes ago.
Gentleman right here.